said that he vetoed the state-approved bill because it was approved by the state to create a commission to study and recommend reparations for slavery and racial discrimination. In his veto letter, did y'all read the veto letter?
We're ready. We're prepared. Do not give in to fear. We are fearless. This is not the time to be afraid. This is a time to stand up and fight back and to resist any temptation for them to divide us. We're in this together. The rule of law is on our side. We will not give in, not give up. We will not capitulate. We will not bow. We will not bend. We will survive.
But I wanted to kick off because there's a lot of commentary around Wes More. And somebody posted, because there's a story and the headline is Governor Moore vetoes reparation bill. But because people don't read, and we're inviting him on, by the way. I think he will be on. We'll either do a town hall with him. We're definitely going to have Davon Love on, activist from Maryland, to talk about this reparations bill and all of the things that go into it. But we can, understand, or maybe we can't understand why the man in the position of governor could veto a bill that, in his estimation, the cost doesn't live up to what actually should be happening. And so the question I'm going to ask right off rip, do you believe that reparations are owed? And I would suspect, given Wes More's history, that he would think that reparations are owed. I would think that. So then you would have to say, well, why would he veto a bill on reparations if he thinks that reparations is because he's not foundationally black? And then we go down these rabbit holes, as opposed to having like measured conversations about like there's a way that folk who govern, and maybe there's a reason why. And let's ask the question as opposed to jumping from, oh, well, he wants to be president. He'll never get my vote. And I was like, here we go again. So here we go again. If the man is running, you would rather him not win over this issue that you may or may not quite understand why he did the thing, instead of asking the question. It was wild. A few months ago, I had Jane Elliott on, and I remember posting this video of her on YouTube. And because YouTube attracts a certain kind of person, and most of us are on YouTube, but I'm saying the people who are active in comments and stuff, most of them, they're doing YouTube research. they're doing their own research on YouTube and going down these YouTube rabbit holes, which you can do. Trust me, I spent a couple of afternoons going down the rabbit hole on the Illuminati, and also on the Satan worshipers and Anton LaVey and all. Like, you can go down a rabbit hole and get completely indoctrinated into a way of thinking if you spend enough time on YouTube, which I don't. But I was in the comments, and I was inundated with people telling me that they were going to dismiss everything that Jane Elliott had to say about race and racism in this country because of her stance on reparations. And then, when I hit back, do you think that she does not believe? Well, she said out of her mouth. And then I went and saw the interviews that she did. And I realized that the interviewers didn't know what she was saying. And she was, vociferous and very, she's 90 something years old. She's going to say what she's going to say, and she's not going to, split hairs, but they couldn't get it. And then they didn't know how to ask the right question to get her to land where they could feel comfortable. So I operated from the premise that Jane Elliott is not a racist. So, because I've talked with her several times. And not only is she not a racist, she's an anti-racist, meaning she's somebody that actually is out there willfully fighting with death threats, by the way. Most of you are not you're not putting your life on the line to say to the world that whiteness is a problem. This lady is doing that and has been doing that since Martin Luther King was assassinated. So for 60 plus years, this lady, 60 years, she has been out here putting her life on the line. So then I'm going to say, okay, so she actually is not here to harm black people. Matter of fact, she's trying to do the opposite. So why would she be against reparations? So that, so working through that, let me ask her. And you know what? She's not against reparations. She's against the order of things. So in her mind, the First Nations people, and some of them are Africans, because we were here before the Mayflower. Some people were here before the Mayflower. Okay, so she feels like the First Nations people, what we call indigenous, what we used to call Indians, should get full reparations first, should be repaired first in the order of things. And then as I'm talking to her, I'm saying, okay, that makes sense. So are you against reparations? No, I'm against putting this before that. And if you're Black, you're like, you don't care about the First Nations people. Maybe they don't matter to you. But when she said it, I was like, that makes sense. That makes sense. Everyone should be whole in order so that everyone can be whole in order, right? So she wants to put things in order. But if we live in a world where it's knee jerk, I'm going to dismiss and discard you because I don't like this position that you're taking, but I don't even quite understand it because I have not really, I heard you say it, but I didn't understand because no one in the room could ask the next question, then we're in a very sorry state, and I think we're going to talk with Garrison Hayes later on in the show about journalism. But this is what happens when we don't have enough quality journalists or even a journalistic standard. And when the media has been so compromised, chasing clicks and algorithms for money, for cash instead of truth. And I get it. You got to keep the lights on. You got to pay these salaries and, priorities. I get it. You still have to run a business because it is a business. And I remember being shocked when I first started in journalism and I was at the Daily News and, my editor cut one of my pieces and I said, why? And he said, an ad came in. And I said, an ad came in? An ad came in? So you're going to cut this? I put a lot of work into this piece and I'm arguing with him. He's like, no, you don't understand. Your salary is paid by the ads. And I said, wait, what? I thought, see, I'm 21. I'm thinking the newspaper price. It was, 50 cents or $1. That's how they made their money. And the Daily News was circulating 1 million on a Sunday at the time. And that's $1 million on the Sunday. So I'm doing that math. And they're like, oh, no, the ads, a full page ad is like 25,000. And this little corner, this 10-inch piece that got cut brought in an ad that is like 15 grand or whatever, 10 grand. And it started to shift how I saw media. Like, oh, so it is a business. And you can do two things. You can run a business at the same time, do good. But we're not doing that now. So I think we've lost our way. But as humans that live here, especially those who are in America, because America is in an existential crisis, it's time for us to demand more of the people who are out there and demand more of ourselves and not just write folk off. So it's not just that I have a tremendous amount of respect for Wes More and how he moves in the world, but he is still a politician, which means that he is a public servant, which means that, he may go with the wind. At the same time, I believe that we can push him into different things based on what he wants to get done in terms of being elected. You don't give him a free pass. You ask hard questions. But I also think in this case, as I'm looking at this reparations thing, he said that he vetoed the state-approved bill because it was approved by the state to create a commission to study and recommend reparations for slavery and racial discrimination. In his veto letter, did y'all read the veto letter? This is what he pointed out in his veto letter. He said, I will always protect and defend the full history of African Americans in our state and country. But in light of the many important studies that have taken place on this issue over nearly 3 decades, now is the time to focus on the work itself, ! So he's not saying I'm against reparations. He said we've studied it enough. How many of you have said that very thing? Haven't we studied this enough? Don't we know it's old? I mean, you could just read Ta-Nehisi Coates, The Case for Reparations in the Atlantic. Case closed. Case closed. You don't even need to go any further than that. You could read Lerone Bennett. You could read Randall Robinson. There are many cases that have been made. Case closed. It's old. It's old. He said, in light of the many important studies that have already taken place on this issue over nearly 3 decades, 30 years, now is the time to focus on the work. Narrowing the racial wealth gap, expanding home ownership, uplifting entrepreneurs of color, and closing the foundational disparities that lead to inequality, from food insecurity to education. So is this man against Equity, diversity, and inclusion. Is he against reparations? No, he's against spending money on another study. So how do we get to a place where we can even have this conversation? And you may still disagree with him, but can we disagree based on the facts? So people are up in arms. This bill, a top priority of the Legislative Black Caucus of Maryland, detailed a host of potential reparations, including official statements of apology. They can keep that. Do we want an apology, or do we want equity and inclusion? Financial compensation, yes, I'm for that. Assistance with making a down payment on a home, isn't that what the governor talked about? Okay. Debt forgiveness, isn't that what the wealth gap? Tuition payment waivers for higher education, all of that. The bill passed last month with a 103 to 36 vote in the House, in the state's House, Maryland State House. And on his face, great. He was like, I'd rather spend the money on actions. Can we have that conversation civilly? I think we can. But I think we also need to do a better job of shaping things and not letting the loud voices of dissent take precedence over common sense. So there's a lot of things going on in the country. And I feel like, from Joe Biden to, I feel like I've been saying this, that we're so close to a breakthrough. We're so close to actually having things not perfect, because it's not going to be perfect, but at least making some inroads, not just symbolic inroads like a Juneteenth holiday, which this president's probably going to snatch back, and then people are going to be mad, maybe, or not. I didn't think it should have been a holiday just for that very reason. Now, does that mean I'm against the celebration of liberation? No, it means that this should not be in the hands of the federal government. This is a holiday that's us, that's ours. That is those of us who are descendants of enslaved Africans in this country. This is the Liberation Day that we should be celebrating, and it should not be, even if it's a federal holiday. I'm not mad at the federal holiday. At the same time, it puts it in the hands of somebody like Trump now.
We're ready. We're prepared. Do not give in to fear. We are fearless. This is not the time to be afraid. This is a time to stand up and fight back, and to resist any temptation for them to divide us. We're in this together. The rule of law is on our side. We will not give in, not give up. We will not capitulate. We will not bow. We will not bend. We will